Good morning, fam. How you doing? I just wanted to jump on here really quickly and talk about some encounters that I've had over the last 3 or 4 months. Initially, I said I wasn't going to say anything. I just wanted to pray over it and pray over it. And then I had another encounter, or just a word spoken to me in last month that kind of prompted me to say, ooh, maybe I need to re-examine those dreams I had, and maybe it's time for me to say something about it. Okay, so I took some notes here so I didn't forget. The first encounter I had was July, the 17th of July, and in this encounter, the encounter starts with it's like I was standing in front of the Father. The encounter started with me just being buckled over, and it was so much glory that I couldn't see it, and I was just getting weaker and weaker, and I was just bent over with my head covered, with my eyes closed, and it still seemed like he was just the brightness of the glory was just overwhelming. It was an all-consuming glory. It was nothing I could do to get away from it. And I could sense that he wanted to have a conversation with me. I could sense that he was telling me, okay, you can stand up. And I kept saying, I can't, it's too much. And I was just getting weaker and weaker and weaker, as if I was going to pass out. And I said, I can't stand. I said, I can't look upon you. And it was just so much glory there. And I'm like I said, I was just getting weaker and weaker and just getting limp. And so then it seemed like he started to move away, like he understood that it was too much, and then he started to move away. And so I could sense that the intensity of the glory was now, moving away from me. And so when I thought it was safe to look up, I decided, okay, now I could feel my strength regaining too. And so once I decided it was safe to look up, I did so. And once I looked up, the Father wasn't there. The Father had moved away. And once I looked up, I was staring at the sun. I've been to the Grand Canyon before, so can you imagine it, for those of you who've been like standing on the cliff, the edge of the Grand Canyon, and having the huge sun just right in front of you. Now, he did something to my body so I couldn't feel the heat, and he did something to my eyes so that I could look upon the sun. I couldn't look upon him, but I could look upon the sun. And the sun it was like a huge planet just right in front of me, and I knew it was the sun. It may have been like 10 miles away from me, but you can imagine the sun. And so all of a sudden, as I'm standing there, I'm thinking, where did the Father go? Where did the Father go? And I'm looking around. I don't see him, but I'm looking at the sun, and I'm just like, wow, like, why did he put me here? And all of a sudden, as I'm thinking those thoughts, it was as if a hand came out of nowhere and reached up and pulled the blind down in front of the sun. It was a black blind. I know it sounds crazy. This is what happened. Pulled the blind down in front of the sun. And once that blind came down in front of the sun, it was total pitch black darkness. And I couldn't see anything. And I was afraid to move. It was so pitch black dark that I was afraid to move. And I said, I can't move. I can't see anything. Because I was sensing that the Father was still there, but I just couldn't see him. And I said, I can't see anything. Because I was afraid to move. And then all of a sudden, that same hand came back over and reached to the bottom of the mini blind and just and let the blind back up. Once the blind went back up, the sun was no longer there. Now it was the moon. I'm staring at the moon. And the moon is not as enormous as the sun would be. But here's the thing. Now that I'm standing in the same position, now the sun has been replaced by the moon, and the moon was covered in blood. I mean, big drops of blood. And I'm standing there, it's like a horror flick. And I'm standing there and I'm watching all this blood drip off the moon. And I'm like, oh my God. And it's not like one of those John Hagee moons, with a moon with a little discoloration. It was a real blood moon, not blood red moon. It was a blood moon with just real life blood just dropping off the moon. And then I woke up. That's why I hadn't said anything about this, because I wasn't really sure what it meant. And I've been praying to God, what does this mean? Did you want me to say anything about this? But you can see, I think in Joel, in Matthew 24, and then again in, I think it's Revelation 6, where the sun refuses to shine and the blood, the moon turns blood red. So, I'm really not in a position to say that I know what it means, other than the fact that all these preceded the coming of the Lord. All these events preceded the coming of the Lord. So maybe the coming of the Lord is much more sooner than we originally thought or even imagined, for him to show me that. But I'm not here to say specifically that I know exactly what this means, because I've had dreams and visions like this before, and sometimes it's come to pass, but it come to pass in a way that I never imagined it would come to pass. It came to pass in a way that was not even on my trajectory. So I don't even want to say this, because God didn't say anything. He never said anything. He just showed it to me. So I'm not gonna try to sit here and give a hypothesis. So, and then on August the 8th, I had another dream on August the 8th. And in this dream, I was with my mom, and we seemed like we were in this high-rise building downtown Seattle, somewhere downtown Seattle. And all of a sudden, we see this giant tsunami wave coming to the city. And I tell my mom, Mom, look. Now, my mom doesn't live here. My mom still lives in Georgia. And so, but she was in the dream. And so we see this giant tsunami wave coming. And I'm like, Mom, look at the wave, And so I'm telling my mom, we need to leave. We need to get somewhere fast. And we already in an elevated position. And my mom tells me, she says, no, son. She says, we're fine. And I'm like, and I'm getting hysterical, like, no, we need to leave, we need to go. Look at the wave. And the wave hadn't hit yet, but we could see it from afar. And it was tall as the buildings coming in. And my mom kept telling me, no, son, we're fine. We're okay. And it was, so eventually the wave came in, and all of downtown Seattle was covered in water. All of downtown Seattle was covered in water. If you were in one of the high-rise buildings in downtown Seattle, the water came up to maybe like the 7th or the 8th floor of all the high-rise buildings downtown. Yeah, the waterfront, everything was covered. And everybody who was down in those lower areas, everybody who was down there who didn't see the wave coming, yeah, that part. So, and so I woke up out of that dream. I woke up, and, but here's the part that was interesting to me. My mom said we were okay. It was almost like there was some supernatural protection, like Goshen in Exodus, which, in Exodus, how God protected his own people. And it's almost like there was some, the wave, the tsunami wave was coming, but it's almost as if we were protected. And so I got up. Of course I got up and I started walking around my room in the middle of the night. And I'm like, Lord, what are you saying? What are you saying? What are you saying? And I wake up and I'm kind of hysterical at first, because you're still feeling the energy of that dream. Because it's just, my dreams they're so real to me. It's almost like it's a dual reality. And sometimes when I come out of it, I really don't know which reality I'm still in. If I'm in the dream reality or the vision, or if I'm back at home. Sometimes it's hard to distinguish where I am. So I got up and I prayed a little bit, just kind of, walking through the house praying, trying not to wake my wife up. And so I went back to bed. As soon as I went back to bed, this is the same night now. Mind you, this is the same night. As soon as I went back to bed, I went right back into another dream. In this dream, I was with my wife, and we were riding down Pack Highway over by SeaTac, over by the airport. Anybody who's from Seattle, they'll know that area is a popular area by the airport. And so all of a sudden, my wife says, "Honey, look, honey, look." And the top of the mountain just blew off. Mount Rainier, just right down the street from my house. Well, not really right down the street, but we can see the mountain from our home. The entire top of the mountain just freaking blew off. And my wife was like, honey, turn around. And I looked and I could just see all the smoke and the ash, the rocks just coming from that mountain. It sounded like it was like an engine, like 1,000 freight trains, like whoa, and the smoke was just coming out, whoa, and ash and rocks flying everywhere. And we were able to turn the car around and boogity and get out just in time. And I woke up from that. Now this dream was much like the last dream. We were able to turn and get out of harm's way. Again, it's almost like Goshen. Like, okay, so what do these dreams mean? I think both dreams, the dreams about the sun going dark and the moon turning to blood, do I think that's going to actually happen? No, I think that's largely symbolism. I really do. I think it's largely symbolism. And this dream about the tsunami coming to Seattle, burying the city, and about the top of the mountain being blown off. Can that happen? Well, they keep saying that we in this Andrea's fault out here. Could happen, but I think it's largely symbolism too. If I could just speak my truth, I think it's largely symbolism. I think whatever will happen or could happen will come in waves, just like a tsunami would, or it might just be a major eruption in the city or a major eruption in our nation, just like the top of the mountain blown off. It could be a major eruption in our economy or a major eruption in our healthcare system. Or it could be war. It could be a terrorist attack. If a terrorist attack happens, then that's like a tsunami wave. Or if a terrorist attack happened, that's like a major eruption in the city or in the nation. So that's why I think it's largely symbolism. But either way, it'll leave a lot of devastation and it'll catch a lot of people off guard with either scenario. But I really don't think that a tsunami wave is going to come into the city and bury the city all the way up to the 8th floor of the high-rise buildings, or that the top of the mountain is going to completely blow. Oh, God forbid, because I live too close to that freaking mountain. But I think it's largely symbolism, just like what I said. And on October the 2nd, and this is what kind of alarmed me. On October 2nd, I woke up in the middle of the night. Well, I guess it wasn't with me. I think it was around more about 5 o'clock in the morning. And I was just shaking. I felt like I was shaking. It felt like a violent and aggressive shake. I mean, just shaking. That's how it felt to me. And it was so bad, I jumped out of the bed. And I was telling my wife, it's an earthquake. You know, my poor wife, you know, she's accustomed to this by now because she's been married to me for almost 17 years. And it's happened the entire time we've been married. And so she was just like, honey, what's going on? And I said, don't you feel the shaking? It's an earthquake. And she's like, no, honey, there's no earthquake. No, there's nothing shaking. The house is not shaking. And even though I was out of the bed and in the room, I could still feel the shaking. So I walked out of my bedroom. I walked into the master bedroom. I walked into the bathroom of the master bedroom and I turned the light on and everything was still in place. So I'm looking around the bathroom. I mean, I'm really trying to come down because I was so emotional and I can still feel the shaking. I'm inside my master bedroom and I'm looking around, everything's still in place. And I'm looking at my arms and I'm like, I can see that my arms are not shaking, but I still could feel the shaking. I mean, on the inside, I was still shaking just as violently. And so I leave from out of the master bedroom and I come down here. I come downstairs and in the dining area, in the living room. I started walking around our home and I thought to myself, well, the alarm didn't go off. I mean, we have a home alone, so that kind of shaking, you know, you can imagine the home alone, nothing. And so I go back upstairs, and my wife was like, "Are you okay? Are you okay? You know, you probably just in one of your visions." And so I said, "Yes." And so she was like, "Tell me about it." And I was just telling her, it was just shaking. The entire vision was just shaking. It was just shaking. What does that mean? Well, I think that one's more simple. I think it means that a great shaking is coming. When is it coming? I think it's already started. Israel, I think the shaking has already started. All those nations talking about converging on Israel. I think the shaking has already started. We don't know what the fallout is going to be, whether, you know, where's all the different places that it's going to spread to, like America. You know, I've always wondered, where would America be in the end times? I've always wondered that. And I always thought to myself that America's not even in the Bible. We're not going to be nowhere in the end times. Wrong. I was wrong on that, because America is allied to Israel, and America's right in the thick of it, Okay, so I just think that means that a great shaking is coming. And if you could have felt the shaking that was going on inside of my body, I mean, my core is almost like as if I could feel my liver, my kidneys, my heart vibrating, like the core, this part. All my organs, I could feel like shaking and trembling inside my body. And even though I was out of the encounter and standing up beside my bed, the core, the foundation for America, the things that we take for granted, the healthcare, the jobs, the military, the education, all the things that we take, the food sources, the water supply, all the things that we take for granted, the very foundation of the American society could be shaken, because America has kind of decided that she no longer needs God, no longer wants God around, but there is a remnant. That's why God told me to name this channel Remnant Arising, because there is a remnant. There's a remnant here in America, and we're still crying out to God. Okay, so here is the last one. On the 16th of October, I was lying in my bed. And it's probably about 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. And this is what I heard. We are living in the last days, and you need to keep your eyes and ears open at all times. And I just sat straight up in my bed. I'm like, whoa. Now that's not the first time that God has told me that we're living in the last days. This is maybe like the second or third time that he's told me that we're living in the last days. But this time he said, I need to keep my eyes and ears open. Like I need to be on guard. Like I need to be on alert. I moved to Seattle, Washington in 2010 from Atlanta, Georgia. I can't ever remember him telling me that we were living in the last days when I lived in Atlanta. And I was a Christian in Atlanta as well. I think the first time he ever said that we were living in the last days, I think it was around 2012. And I had a couple of dreams in between that time. I've had a couple of dreams where I saw myself with a gang of other people, and we were all running. We didn't know why we were running, but we were running, and they would round us up, and they would put us in these fences. It was like an outdoor prison with just a huge fence, and we were all fenced in. And we knew, I understood in the dream that we were there because we didn't take the mark of the beast. I'm not saying that the people would be here. I think he just allowed me to go through a couple of these, I have a couple of these visions, so I know what it feels like for the people who get left behind. But and both dreams were kind of the same, where we were loaded up at gunpoint and we were taken to these outdoor camps, and then it was thousands of people, and then they'll call you in one by one, and in both accounts I noticed that when they would take the people in, they never came back. So we could never question them, like, what happened, what they say, what's going on inside the facility. No, he never said that. They never came back. So we were just all left to assume, and we were all inside the prison encampment, and we've already deciding we're not taking it. We just got to stand. I've had 2 dreams like that since I've been in Seattle. And he also told me back in 2012 that we were living in the last days. And then October 16th, he just said it again. And this time he said, keep your eyes and your ears open, which means that you need to be on alert, which means that you need to be attentive, that you need to be in your word, you need to be prayerful. Now's not a time to chase worldly passions, or now's not a time to be a lukewarm Christian. Now's not a time for that. Now's a time to just be sober-minded and being able to discern the time. I mean, if you look, in 2012, when God told me that we were living in the last days, I'm thinking, are you kidding me? It's 2012. And I'm thinking last days, like the disciples, when they was running from the last, let's say like when they were running from Paul, or John the Revelator, he was on the Isle of Patmos, or the church was being persecuted, or when Titus marched into Rome and they were just putting the Israelites to the sword, and the Christians was having to live in caves. And I'm thinking, now he tells me this in 2012, they were living in the last days. And I'm trying to make this analogy. Like, this looks like an ordinary day. That's a rabbit hole, though. It looks like an ordinary day. And when he said it to me on the 16th, I woke up and I'm looking around. I told it to my wife. I said, God just told me again that we're living in the last days. It looks like an ordinary day out here in Seattle. And I guess it looks like it every other place except Ukraine and maybe Sudan and Israel, where there's wars. It's not ordinary days for them, but for us, it just seems like an ordinary day. But the season has changed. If God said that we live in the last days, and he was very emphatic about it, that we are living in the last days, and you need to keep your eyes and your ears open at all times, the season has already changed. Whether you can see it or not, whether you believe it or not, the season has already changed. We're in the last days. So, be watchful and be prayerful. Some of these things you're not going to be able to see with the naked eye. You're not going to be able to see it. You're going to have to pick this up in the spirit. Like the sons of Issachar, I think it was the first chapter in the First Chronicles, they had the ability to discern the times, and you have to be able to discern the times. Me, I'm just looking around like, whoa, last days? Are you kidding me? Last days? Man, these some good last days. If I use the analogy of what the early church was going through, these last days here are great. No, things are about to turn up. The tsunami dream, you know, the sun going dark, blood red moon, big drops of blood, top blowing off the mountain. And I wake up in the middle of the night, I'm shaking. Things are about to turn up. People, you need to listen to me. You need to wake up, church. You need to wake up. Things are about to turn up. The season has changed. And I just pray, in this video, I just pray that God will give you eyes to see and ears to hear and a heart to receive his word. I mean, I guess the only reason I know is because he keeps dealing with me about it. And then it becomes my job to sound the alarm. I mean, I'm not going to get into why, but he told me, you're my watchman at the gate. He's told me a lot of other things too, but I'm not going to say it in this video, but he said, you are a watchman at the gate. A watchman at the gate has to watch out for the people inside the gate, the body of Christ. I have to sound the alarm. When he says it to me, I have to sound the alarm. People, things are about to turn up. And eyes to see, ears to hear, and a heart to receive his word, and the ability to discern the times. God bless you. That's it for me. Have a good day. Thank you.